Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I want to welcome you on behalf of the University of Florida IFAS Extension, Polk County. Welcome to our gardening and landscaping webinar this evening. And before we get started, I just have a few things I want to share with you. One, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about our presenter this evening. Carol has been a Master Gardener volunteer for over 18 years now, and she'll be sharing a little bit of her personal experience, some tips, and some research-based information to help you with your gardening and landscaping. But before we let Carol speak, I just want to mention that the University of Florida is an equal opportunity institution, and we strive to reach a diverse audience. If you feel as though you've been subjected to discrimination, feel free to file a complaint with the USDA. You can do so by completing the form on their website. You can also call them at 866-632-9992, or you can write a letter addressed to the USDA, but we do appreciate your participation this evening. One more thing I want to mention, I want to talk a little bit about extension if you aren't familiar with extension. So the University of Florida Extension is a partnership between federal, state, and local government. And so we work with researchers and scientists and faculty and staff throughout the state. University of Florida main campus is located in Gainesville, but there's research centers throughout the state along with extension offices. And so here locally in Polk County, we have lots of programming to offer as well. In addition to gardening and landscaping and Master Gardener volunteers, we offer information on natural resources, Florida-friendly landscaping, small farms, livestock, healthy living and nutrition, just to name a few, along with 4-H for youth. And so at the end, Carol will share some information if you have any questions or would like to reach out to our county extension office. And I think there's just a little bit more on that slide. If you want to click through, there you can see main campus in Gainesville. And then I think one more click will give a little bit more about Polk County there, and you can see some of the programs that I mentioned. So we do have a wide variety of information available to the public. And so with that, I'd love to turn it over to Carol, who will be your presenter tonight.
Hello, and thank you all for coming. We're really excited about this program because we've been working on it for some time. And it's called What to Know About Your New Landscape all year long. And we're going to talk about how to manage your landscape. This is a picture from a few years ago, actually 5 or 6 years ago. And it's ironic because today, this is banana harvest season, and I have 2 bunches of bananas back in my back hallway right now that we've been starting to put through the dehydrator. It's a lot of fun, and once you get it started, it's so successful. So today, this is what we're going to do. As an overview, we're going to first discuss residential growth in Polk County because there's been a lot of growth. It's the top story in the newspapers for this year, for last year, for a long time now. It's what we hear about. And if you want to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been. So we're going to talk about a little bit of historical and current population statistics. And then we're going to tie all of that into new resident landscape and garden issues. First of all, Florida, Central Florida as a unique environment. What's different, soils and climate, especially for folks who are coming from up north. Current residents that have developing or changing landscapes or have plans to do so. Any resident wanting to expand knowledge about garden projects for new or older landscapes, and how to learn about and document care and improvements to your landscape. And those are ornamentals and edibles through garden journaling. So up there in the right-hand top corner is a picture that looks very much like a lot of homes that are being built now in Polk County. And we're going to use that as our model today for my new Polk home. So Polk County population growth. a lot of people don't like statistics, and they can be kind of dry, but you think about where you've been and where you're going. And I went back to 1950 because that's where I started. And in 1950, there were 122,000 people in Polk County. So we start there. And then 1960, 1970, 1980, and you can see it goes from 1 to almost 2 to 2 to 3, 1990, 2000. I came shortly to Florida. Shortly after that, there were about 500,000 people when I got here in 2004. And then 2010, 602, 2020, 725,000, 2023, in 3 years of the next decade, we went up to 761, almost 762,000. And so if we were going to elongate this, let me go back for a minute. If we're going to elongate this, I've heard a couple of figures, but the one that comes from Bureau of Economic and Business Research brings the new number to 810,000, which is about here. So you can see that this slope continues to get sharper. Polk County, as of last November 2nd, is currently number 4 as one of the fastest growing metro areas in the US. And our metro area is Lakeland, Winter Haven, and number 1 as the fastest growing county in Florida. And it's just incredible. It's brought about by a couple things. All of the development is. One is a generational shift, that families who own ranches for a century are now selling their ranches to developers. And 2, there has been a 4-decade-long slide in the citrus industry. And this year will be the smallest citrus harvest since 1943. So those two reasons, the generational shift of the younger owners of the open land and the long slide of the citrus industry due to citrus disease, are fueling all of the growth now. So if we're going to look at Polk County new private housing structures for 11 years, and these are rounded percent growths, but you see how the numbers from 2010, actually 9, to 2012 were pretty static. And then in 2013, it started to grow at a better clip, actually in 2012. And it continued to grow till we get to 2015, 16, 2017 and 18 were the recession. 2019, things started up again. 2020, even though we were in COVID, there was still an increase of housing structures being built. And in 2021, it's just beginning to be exponential. So it kind of says it all, because from 2010 to 18, the housing permits were 26,000. And in only 3 years, 19, 20, and 21, they grew to all of the 8 years, 9 years combined and more in 3 years. So this is where we are now. I tried to get the 2022 numbers, but they're not posted yet. So special comments for new residents. These are pictures of real Florida, the historic Florida. They are both of Marshall-Hampton Reserve. These are areas that will be less and less seen by new residents and old residents because of the land use shift. So Polk County residents traditionally include year-round folks, snowbirds, and now increasing numbers of new residents who are mainly from the Northeast of the US. New residents from the North are often unprepared to meet the challenges of their Polk County environment. And that means looking out at their residential yard and gardens and knowing what to expect and knowing what they should be realistically planning to do. One of the things that happens is that folks think about, oh, I'm going to move to Florida, and the first two things I want to have on my new lot is an orange tree and a palm tree. And it's one way up on our list to educate the public that the citrus tree in the home landscape has been for the last few years a difficult plant to maintain. And also I'll tell a personal story. When we moved to our lot, it had on it 7 palm trees. It had 2 queens, 4 Washingtonians, and a number of sago palms, which aren't really palms, and a European fan palm. And I will tell you that in a home that at that point was only 10 years old, those palms which were originally installed on a small lot, when you looked out the window, looked like telephone poles because they're too big for a small lot. So I removed most of those at some point and only kept some sagos and a European fan palm, which is a beautiful and cold hardy small palm. So this is a resource that was put together by myself and Molly Greiner. Molly had this vision for this publication in 2018, and she started working on it, and I joined her. She asked me to join her in 2019, and we were looking toward providing a resource for homeowners that would put together information that they could find in one spot, in one publication, without sifting through everything there was on IFAS. And one of the things that we did was take a lot of base documents and excerpt everything that was relevant to Polk County or Central Florida. So we pulled this information together, and it actually, we worked on it for a couple of years. And the content is specific to Polk County. It is growing directions, plant selection, monthly landscape to-dos, monthly edible to-dos, special journaling pages for every month, helpful topical articles and resources, and most important, where to get help, because it's really important when you're a transplant to know where to get help. I can remember asking neighbors questions, and the answers that I got were not always correct or science-based. And so you want to have a resource for not only the current residents that we have, but for all the folks that are coming to new homes and are starting from scratch in the landscape. This publication was awarded first place at the IFAS State Master Gardener Conference for educational materials in 2021. And it was awarded an International Master Gardener Conference Innovative Project in 2021. So this is the opening masthead page. And Molly did the landscape pages, and I did the edibles pages. Master gardeners are now becoming specialists in areas that are of interest to them. We collaborated on this with Julie's help and Ann's help in supporting our task as we went along. We also had a lot of help from IFAS Communications, who did the graphic design and did some editing, although we did a lot of editing along the way. So we're going to welcome new residents. And we spent time at the very beginning of the publication talking about how things are, which things are different in Florida from where folks up north, from what they may have had experience with. And the main things that are different are climate and soils. But we started out with a special note for residents to be especially aware of common seasonal plants and when to plant them. In our location, seasonal vegetables, herbs, and annuals may not be planted in the months to which you are accustomed. For example, you may be used to planting snapdragons, petunias, and dianthus in the spring. In Central Florida, you would plant these cool season annuals beginning in November and December. And as a personal story, I will add that I got here in March, and I was a big gardener up north, and I'm from Northeast Ohio. And the first thing I did was go to the box store and buy a tomato plant, because they sell them then there in June, and plunk that in the ground in June in Central Florida, which didn't go well because it's not the time to plant. So we want to talk about especially when you should plant things. So the climate, growing plants in Central Florida is not like gardening anywhere else in the United States. In our Zone B, the climate differs from growing conditions in other areas, even of Florida. And so there are specific times in the year when plants can be installed in Polk County, which is true of seasonal plants such as vegetables, herbs, and annuals. Other plants, landscape plants, can pretty much be planted any time of the year, although you want to stay away from freeze situations or other stress situations like a lot of water. So the soils in Polk County are very different from soils in the northeastern United States or wherever the new resident is coming from. So that they have low levels of nutrients, they're sandy, they drain easily, and there's two things you can do. You can amend the sandy soil, or you can plant plants which are natives or fit well into the scenario of a sandy, well-draining area. One of the most important things for new homeowners, for newly built homes, is that some of the areas in the county have occurring hard pan, and they don't drain readily. So just because you live in Central Florida, there's still a range of different soils. So you want to kind of check that out. And soils in new housing developments can be compacted and of poor quality, because a lot of times they will skim off the top and then come back later when and if they do sod. So you still have to know what kind of soil is there. When we chose our home area, we found out that the area where we live used to be cattle country. And so the soils are naturally have a lot of humus here, but they still needed some amendment, but it was one of the better areas. So that brings us to the 9 principles of Florida friendly landscaping, because we already alluded to the fact that you want to pick plants that fit into that range. So you want to have the right plant in the right place, water efficiently, fertilize appropriately, mulch. I want to make a side comment about mulch. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because if you have a lot of mulch, and the recommendation is 2 to 3 inches, then you will be suppressing weeds. But the other side of that coin is, while you're suppressing weeds and they can't get a start, neither can seeds that you want to grow. So one thing that I do is I approach mulch from a viewpoint of what I want that particular patch of ground to do for me, And so I have a specific area last year that I grew lots of romaine on, open pollinated romaine. And this year I didn't have to grow any seed the area because there were so many volunteers, and we're enjoying those salads every day right now. So mulch has pros and cons. Attract wildlife because you're trying to mimic the environmental lands that used to be here, are here. You can encourage that. Manage yard pests responsibly. Recycle your yard waste. Reduce stormwater runoff and protect the water. And while we're here, I want to add something that's not in the 9 principles, but important for all new residents. And that is right plant, right place, right time. So there are resources, and these apps are resources that would be very helpful for new homeowners. The first one is the landscaping apps. The landscapes are designed to be functional, cost efficient, visually pleasing, environmentally friendly, and easily maintainable. And I think that last point, easily maintainable, is probably an aspect that most folks want to make sure they achieve. And that's another dichotomy, because easily maintainable is not the same as set it and forget it. So for the Florida Plant Guide has recommended plants for Florida landscapes. The coolest thing about this guide is that you can search by your zip code. So you don't have to wade through all of the lists of plants for North Florida, for South Florida. You can search specifically for 33811, 33810, whatever. And the different kinds of plants included are annuals, ferns, ground covers, ornamental grasses, palms, perennials, shrubs, trees, turf grass, and vines. Other useful apps that are on this same site are Florida Butterfly Gardens, Florida Bee Gardens, Florida Toxic Plants, and Florida Fertilizer Ordinances. So the learning goals for journal users. The techniques presented in the guide are based on the 9 principles of Florida-friendly landscaping. IFAS developed this program to help Florida residents learn about sustainable landscaping practices. Using these techniques, and this is from the opening pages of the journal, the goal is for folks to become more aware of how landscape practices affect the local environment, to reduce harmful practices while creating beautiful and healthy landscapes, to enrich soil health in the landscape, and to attract birds, butterflies, and other pollinators, bringing life and vitality to the home landscape. I think anybody who has developed their landscape in terms of different kinds of flowering shrubs and trees and edibles knows that it attracts the birds, the butterflies, and the pollinators. And it's a really cool thing. Just one of the things we do, we just go out and sit in the garden and watch. So here we have, I'm a Polk gardener, and he finally has bought his first Florida landscape, or he already has a Florida landscape, and he's trying to figure out, he kind of hasn't worked on it too much. He's kind of trying to figure out what to do first. And so he has all of these things that he can think about, and he doesn't know which one to do. But the answer is to get a soil test before you can do any of the rest. You need to know what you're dealing with as a base for your plants. So the master gardeners do a pH soil test, and they'll walk you, if you call them at the plant clinic, they will walk you through how to put together your soil sample, and you can get a pH done for $3. And the university does a general list of nutrients, and that's a send away test, and that's $10. So the plant clinic can also point you in the right direction for that. So here is what a landscape page looks like. There's one for every month of the year. This is October and December, but all of the pages include the change of climate info, the seasonal plants for that month, the monthly task checkoff list where you can date and make additional notes for what you're working on, irrigation, fertilization, lawn care, pruning, pests, and a plant of the month and a Florida-friendly tip, because each of the Florida-friendly rules or guidelines has a tip. So here's the monthly edibles page, and these two pages face each other. The landscape page information is on the left, the edibles page is on the right, and they all have color pictures. The edibles page is vegetables to plant and methods of planting, whether that's transplanting, seeding, carefully transplanting. They're all charted for you in tables at the back of the journal. Irrigation tips, pest information and control tips, irrigation, fertilization information, special topics information, herbs, because there's a lot of interest in culinary herbs, and the plant of the month, again, with full color pictures. So another thing that the user of the journal is going to do is be looking at the month before and the month after the information, because sometimes maybe you didn't plant your beans when you thought you were, and you have to go back to the journal, see if you can still do it. Looking before the month you're in and after the month you're in is a big help. So because we're at the end of February and March is coming up, and March is really an important planting month. Like I said, up north, you may plant on Memorial Day. It's a big cultural thing. Everybody gets out and does their vegetable gardens on Memorial Day. And that's the cultural start of the season. But here, the cultural start of the season is in March. So this is the information from the March landscape page. March is a great month to garden and attend to spring cleaning in the landscapes. And what gardeners are doing this time of the year is pruning back any cold damage to plants, reshaping different plants with crossing branches or whatever, just basically some outside housekeeping tasks. I was doing some of that today, because even though we say that spring is right around the corner, this week summer's kind of here. So the water irrigation is noted. Irrigation is a big deal for new residents, because a lot of them have never had to irrigate. A lot of them, most of them, have never lived in a climate where it just doesn't rain for a long time. And one of the things that they may do when they get here is just leave their sprinklers on all the time, and they need to know how to set their timers, how to watch the weather, how to use their automatic shut off. It's like a whole new chapter that they've never thought about before. Fertilizer needs for your landscape plants. Plants of the month, the American Beautyberry, one of the most gorgeous plants that you can put in your yard, that helps the birds, creates beauty. It's just a really fun plant. And again, every one of the months, well, 9 of them, have a Florida friendly tip that is featured. Also lawn care, how to fertilize, what's important. Again, in the back, there's a special article on how to cut your grass, how high to cut your grass. It is a practice up north to cut your grass short, because then you don't have to cut it for a while. And with sod products in Florida lawns, if you cut more than a third of the grass blade off, then you're setting your lawn up for decay. All kinds of problems, insect problems, not being able to recoup from growth, and so forth. And all of that is addressed. Pruning, I talked about already a little bit. Pests, March is the time to start scouting a lot, because you want to catch any pests that are getting on your edibles or on your landscape plants, and you want to deal with it in the most environmentally cautious manner that you can. And again, detail on how to do mulch. So then that's the landscape page for March. That's what we're all going to do this month. And then this is the edibles page that gives the vegetables to plant for this month. You'll see arugula, Chinese cabbage, kohlrabi, sweet peppers, sweet potatoes. It's time to plant your sweet potatoes. And it's important to do it now. And the reason why is that they need to mature when it's hot and muggy, because that's how they become cured, so that they'll store well. And then vegetables that survive careful transplanting: carrots, celery, spinach. I've never had the need to transplant a carrot. Thin them, yes, but you can do it. And use seeds. It's really the time for beans: bush, pole, lima beans, and also cantaloupes, corn, and so forth. I'm not going to read it all to you. I will say that for bush and pole, for beans in general, that you want to pick the shortest term cultivar you can. And I always plant a 50-day bean, because in Florida soil, there is this little roundworm called nematodes. And if that bush bean plant is there much longer than 50 days, they are attracted to the roots, and they will eat the roots. And pretty much at 50 days, your plant is going to decline. So I always say for bush beans in particular, that you get the first picking and then you're pretty much done. They will decline, and they're not worth keeping in the garden anymore after that. But all of the spring vegetables are there that are normally thought of. Onions and radishes in fact are just the most fun for kids, because they grow so quickly. So if you're thinking of beginning a garden, you can do it now, or you can do it a month from now. And there are the guidelines to improve the soil with organic matter, to rework the soil, to add organic matter. They really want you to do that. And really, it is the best thing for your vegetable and edibles gardening to mix uncomposted organics into the soil, if you want to do it that way, well in advance of planting, so they have some time to degrade. And to apply composted organics before or at planting time. 25 to 100 pounds of compost or composted manure per 100 square feet. I do a modified area of adding composted manure. I pull a trench and I add it and mix it into that trench. If I do 16 by 20, that's more manure than you need to buy or need. So anyway, in March, it's not too late to start some of the more popular cool season vegetables. Let's say you're going to start some lettuce. You can do that, but know that when the weather is warm, especially as it is this week, it's going to produce a plant and then go to seed as fast as it can because it's hot. So plants of the month for March are bush beans and Cuban oregano. It's the right time to start a lot of herbs, either from small plants or you can do it from seed as you wish. So that's where we are for March, and that's the current month. Going back into the blank journal and using the monthly journal, and you get a journal page and you get a sketch page. And this is important because I have been there when you write down on the back of the seed packet where you put something, and then you have to remember where you put the seed packet. This is just an elegant solution to having a place to put all of the information for what it is you're doing in the garden so that you can keep track of it. You can do sketches, you can add pictures, you can do drawings. This is a user friendly journal, and the user defines how they do it. And because the months are undated, you can begin use of the journal any month of the year. So you don't just buy it in January, and buy it whenever you're ready to start working on your gardens. Benefits of journaling: residents will learn to plan, select, and care for their gardens. Successes and failures, which we call learnings. Experience journaling, personal information, and I call this the good, the bad, and the ugly. Journal a record of building a beautiful and personal landscape. Your landscape is going to be different from anyone else's. It's not going to be a cookie cutter garden. Record original designs of plantings and record the associated budgeting and costs. And this is important because you want to know how many dollars you've spent on what. And then you want to post it as things to remember for next year. And that's because how many times might you think, last year, did I buy mulch? How much mulch did I buy? Where did I put it? Do I need to do it again? It's really good to memorialize what you've done so that you can make plans for what you're going to do in a particular month, because you can't do everything at once, because it is a little, it will keep you busy. So, and you'll enjoy your landscape, which is a new experience, whether you're a new resident or a present resident of Polk County. And it's really, it really gives you a connection to your neighbors. My garden brings a lot of connections with neighbors who walk by and make comments, and we get to have conversations about master gardeners and all kinds of things. So it's really a social aspect to it too. So, and the biggest thing about the journal is that you get to try things with the benefit of this information in the journal. I mean, there are charts, we'll get to some of them in a minute, that are very helpful. You just go to the journal, find the right table, and get your answer. So what's your goal? This is goal-driven learning. Do you want to learn how to ID plants, ID insects, plant diseases? You want to know what your problem is on a plant before you treat it, because you don't treat a problem with a product unless you know that the product is for that problem. So you need an ID on every insect and thing that's going on. And it's a good learning curve. Attracting wildlife, building a pollinator garden, build just an area that's natives, grow food in with your ornamental plants. Mix your ornamentals and your and your food plants. Set the goals, find the information. I mean, this is just a fun tool, and it was put together to be a fun tool. On the sketch page, you can do anything you want with it. You can draw a list of what's in what row and what day you planted it, and all of the details that help you as you go. When I plant some seeds, I note the date, I note what it is, and if it's not coming up by 14 days, then I know I have a problem. I shouldn't sit around and wait. You know, it gives you milestones to look for. So what else is in the journal? The journal, at the end of the landscape and edibles and journal pages, there is a whole section full of articles and tables. And one of them is the 9 principles of Florida-friendly landscaping, with a very good discussion, a landscape worksheet that you can use to plan your own landscape, an annual and bedding plants list, a vegetable planting guide list, managing pests in the edibles garden, growing herbs in Central Florida, again with the focus being on Central Florida, herbs in your home garden. These two, this is a big area that a lot of people are interested in. Growing palms in Polk County, gardening for pollinators, how to install perennials and annuals. There is special information about how to plant a tree, how to plant a bush. It matters where you put it. It matters where you put it in the landscape. Is it sun? Is it shade? It matters how deep you plant it. You can plant it too deep, you can plant it too shallow, but there are precise instructions for how that's done. And a lot of people have never planted a tree or a shrub. So it's an important thing, especially in brand new or changing landscapes. Also, how to install or how to do composting and organic mulches. There's a lot of different kinds of mulches. It's not just what gets dumped off the truck in the driveway. You can use green. Something I do a lot in the edibles garden is I use straw that has no seed content in it. It's great. It's great, and it degrades quickly, and it counts as a green addition. Fertilizer facts, watering your home lawn. I already alluded to that a little bit. Saving water in rain barrels. I have on my landscape 5 different rain barrels. One of them collects the condensation from the air conditioner unit. One of them takes runoff directly from the roof into a screen entry, and 3 of them are daisy chained, and a third is off of a gutter area. So there's a lot of different ways you can do a rain barrel, and they can be done in aesthetically pleasing displays. You know, you don't want to have it in the front yard. You probably can't have it in the front yard, but they do a lot of good. And then there's contact information and resource links. So these are just a quick look at some of the articles in the back, just the title areas. This is the detailed information that is in the guide about vegetable planting guides. The vegetables listed are from arugula to watermelon, and there's quite a few pages. What we did was we took these, we took all of these headings, and from information put together by IFAS for columns that included Northern Florida, Central Florida, and Southern Florida, we pulled out all of the Central Florida numbers and reworked them into um, the charts that only have Central Florida numbers. So again, these charts will help you with what's the right time. Because, for instance, for beans, since we've been talking about beans, the right time to plant beans in Central Florida is February through April and August through September. And you notice the May, June, July months that are typically gardening months up north don't happen in Central Florida for beans. Also for basil, it's not months, but it's fall and spring. So you get the name of the herb, the scientific name, the growth cycle, when to plant, sun, shade. Some of them will grow in shade. Heat and humidity sensitive and cold sensitive is very important. So that's pretty much most of the information I have to share at this point, but I wanted to leave you with some gardening journal pictures to inspire. These are all at my house. And when we came here, I counted when I looked at all of these, and only 3 of the plants pictured were here when we came in 2004. So this is a rose, a crepe myrtle. This is the beautyberry bush, caladiums, Turk's cap, beautyberry berries, flax lily, caladiums, thorales, a lot of things in that bed, but it's a really nice little color bed. The house they had put in 7 sagos. This is one of the 4 that are left, 2 by the house, 2 in this garden. And this is a mixed color garden. This is an area that reseeds itself. I only have to do a little weeding to keep out the invaders. And this is a yesterday, today, and tomorrow plant, which is a plant where the flowers change 3 different colors as they age. Really a cool plant. This is edibles gardens. This is romaine, Seminole pumpkin, some harvest. Blueberries are on the bushes now. This is a box garden that had tomatoes and marigolds in it. This is green beans being seeded. This is green beans flowering. Wonderful salads that we have, broccoli flowering. I let a lot of vegetables flower for the pollinators. I don't yank them out as soon as they're done making the vegetable. I let them go to seed, and pollinators love them. This is, excuse me, the box garden, a different season. I grow a lot of pineapples and I grow a lot of bananas now. And these are my resident critters that I've visited over the years. It's a lot of fun to see who will visit. So I want to end by saying that getting help is easy. There's the resource section of the journal has a lot of links, and for 70 helpful articles. Anyone can contact the Master Gardener Volunteer Plant Clinic. You can walk in or call and ask a question. Somebody's there to help you. They do a lot of great work.